A Connecticut Christmas by Harper Elwood. The crisp December air nipped at Abigail Thornton's cheeks as she hurried along the snow-dusted streets of Hartford, Connecticut. The year was 1885, and the city was alive with the bustle of Christmas preparations. Garlands of evergreen adorned storefronts, their rich pine scent mingling with the aroma of roasted chestnuts from nearby vendors. The warm glow of gaslights cast a magical aura over the early evening, transforming the familiar streets into a winter wonderland. At 22, Abigail was the town's new school teacher, having arrived from Boston just months earlier. She adjusted her woolen cloak, pulling it tighter against the chill, and clutched a basket of pine cones and ribbons, materials for the children's Christmas crafts. The weight of the basket was a comforting reminder of the joy she hoped to bring her students in the coming days. As she walked, Abigail's mind wandered to the changes the past year had brought. Leaving behind the only home she'd ever known in Boston had been daunting, but the warmth with which Hartford had welcomed her made the transition easier. Still, as the holiday season approached, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of homesickness for her family's traditions. Lost in thought about tomorrow's lessons and memories of Christmases past, she didn't notice the patch of ice ahead. Suddenly, her feet slipped out from under her. Abigail let out a startled cry, bracing for impact, but instead of the cold, hard ground, she felt strong arms catch her. "Careful there, Miss Thornton," a familiar voice cautioned, steady and warm. Abigail looked up to find herself in the arms of Thomas Whitfield, the town's young carpenter. His warm brown eyes crinkled with concern beneath the brim of his cap, snowflakes clinging to the wool, so the scent of pine and sawdust clung to him, a comforting aroma that spoke of his craft. "Mr. Whitfield," Abigail breathed, her heart racing from more than just the near fall. "Thank you. I should have been watching where I was going." Thomas smiled as he steadied her, his hands lingering for just a moment longer than necessary. "No harm done. Though I dare say your pine cones didn't fare as well." Abigail gasped, noticing her basket's contents strewn across the snowy sidewalk. "Oh no, the children's Christmas projects." "Allow me to help," Thomas offered, already bending to gather the scattered items. As they knelt together, collecting pine cones and untangling ribbons, Abigail couldn't help but steal glances at Thomas. She had admired him from afar since her arrival in Hartford, charmed by his kind demeanor and the skillful way he worked with wood. But as a proper young lady in her position, she had kept her feelings carefully hidden. "I hear you're to thank for the new bookshelves in the schoolhouse," Abigail said, attempting to calm her nerves with conversation. Her fingers brushed against his as they reached for the same pine cone, sending a feeling of warmth through her despite the cold. Thomas's cheeks reddened slightly, and Abigail doubted it was entirely due to the chill air. "It was my pleasure, Miss Thornton. Anything to help foster the children's love of reading." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the bustling street around them seemed to fade away. Abigail felt a warmth bloom in her chest, despite the chilly air. There was something in Thomas's gaze, a mixture of admiration and something deeper that made her breath catch. The spell was broken by the distant chiming of the town clock. "Oh," Abigail exclaimed, remembering herself. "I must be going. Thank you again for your help, Mr. Whitfield." "The pleasure was mine," Thomas replied, tipping his cap. "Take care on your way home, Miss Thornton. These streets can be treacherous." As Abigail hurried away, her basket now refilled, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. Little did she know, Thomas stood watching her leave, a wistful expression on his face. Over the next few weeks, Abigail found herself crossing paths with Thomas more frequently. He volunteered to help decorate the schoolhouse for Christmas, crafting beautiful wooden ornaments for the tree. Each time he visited, the classroom seemed to grow warmer, filled with the sound of his laughter and the children's excited chatter. Abigail, in turn, began stopping by his workshop under the pretense of discussing improvements to the school building. The cozy space, filled with the scent of freshly cut wood and the soft sounds of Thomas's tools, became a sanctuary from the winter chill. Their conversations flowed easily, ranging from their shared love of literature to their hopes for the future. Abigail was captivated by Thomas's passion for his craft and his dreams of one day opening his own furniture store. His eyes lit up as he spoke of the pieces he longed to create, his hands moving animatedly as he described intricate designs. Thomas, in turn, was impressed by Abigail's dedication to her students and her forward-thinking ideas about education. He found himself captivated by the way she spoke of her pupils, her face glowing with pride as she recounted their accomplishments. As Christmas approached, the town came alive with festive activities. There was to be a grand Christmas Eve celebration in the town square, complete with caroling, ice skating, and a tree lighting ceremony. Abigail's students were to perform a series of holiday recitations, and she spent long hours helping them prepare. The evening before the celebration, Abigail was working late at the schoolhouse, making last-minute adjustments to the children's costumes. The room was bathed in the warm glow of candlelight, casting long shadows across the walls. A knock at the door startled her from her work. Mr. Whitfield, she said in surprise, finding Thomas standing there with a small wooden box in his hands. The sight of him, snowflakes melting in his hair and his cheeks flushed from the cold, made her heart skip a beat. "What brings you here at this hour?" Thomas shifted nervously, his eyes darting around the room before settling on her face. "I hope I'm not intruding, Miss Thornton. I wanted to bring you this before tomorrow's festivities." He held out the box, a beautifully crafted thing with delicate engravings along its edges. Curious, Abigail opened it to find a beautifully carved wooden star, small enough to fit in the palm of her hand. Delicate snowflakes were etched into its surface, and it gleamed with a polished sheen. The craftsmanship was exquisite, speaking of hours of painstaking work. "It's beautiful," Abigail breathed, running her fingers over the intricate design. She looked up at Thomas, her eyes shining with emotion. "Did you make this yourself?" Thomas nodded, a shy smile playing at his lips. "I thought perhaps it could be a tree topper for the schoolhouse Christmas tree," he explained. "I noticed it was missing one." Abigail was touched by the thoughtful gesture. "Thank you, Thomas," she said softly, the use of his first name hanging in the air between them, a small but significant shift. "It's perfect." Thomas took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. The candlelight flickered, casting a warm glow over his features. "Abigail," he said, his voice low and earnest, "I wonder if I might be so bold as to ask for the honor of escorting you to tomorrow's celebration?" Abigail's heart soared, a rush of warmth spreading through her despite the chill of the December night. "I would like that very much," she replied, a shy smile playing at her lips. The next evening, the town square was transformed into a winter wonderland. Lanterns hung from tree branches, casting a warm glow over the freshly fallen snow. The air was filled with the sound of carols and the laughter of children, the scent of roasted chestnuts and mulled cider wafting on the breeze. Abigail stood nervously at the edge of the square, scanning the crowd. She had taken extra care with her appearance, wearing her best dress of deep green velvet, trimmed with delicate lace at the collar and cuffs. Her chestnut hair was pinned in a becoming style beneath her bonnet, a few curls escaping to frame her face. "Miss Thornton," came Thomas's voice from behind her. She turned to find him looking handsome in his Sunday best, a warm smile on his face. His eyes widened slightly as he took in her appearance, a look of admiration clear in his gaze. "You look lovely." Abigail blushed, the color in her cheeks not entirely due to the cold. "Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. You're looking quite dapper yourself." As they strolled through the square arm in arm, Abigail was acutely aware of the curious glances and whispers from the townspeople, but for once, she found she didn't mind. Being with Thomas felt right in a way she had never experienced before. They watched the children's recitations together, Thomas beaming with pride as Abigail's students performed flawlessly. The young voices rose in perfect harmony, singing carols that brought tears to the eyes of many in the audience. Abigail felt a surge of pride, knowing the hard work that had gone into the performance. Afterwards, they sipped hot cider and joined in the carol singing, their voices blending in perfect harmony. The warmth of the cider and Thomas's presence beside her made Abigail feel as though she could withstand any winter chill. As the evening wore on, Thomas led Abigail to a quiet corner of the square, away from the main festivities. Snow had begun to fall lightly, dusting Abigail's hair and eyelashes with delicate flakes. The world around them seemed muffled, as though they were in a cocoon of their own making. "Abigail," Thomas began, taking both her hands in his. His touch was warm despite the cold air, and Abigail felt a shiver run through her that had nothing to do with the temperature. "These past few weeks have been the happiest of my life. I find myself thinking of you constantly, dreaming of a future where we might build something beautiful together." Abigail's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure Thomas must be able to hear it. "Oh, Thomas," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "I know it may be too soon," he continued, his eyes never leaving hers, "but I cannot let another day pass without telling you how I feel. Abigail Thornton, I am wholly and completely in love with you." Tears of joy welled in Abigail's eyes, threatening to spill over. In that moment, all her doubts and fears melted away, leaving only the certainty of her feelings for the man standing before her. "And I with you, Thomas Whitfield," she replied, her voice strong despite its softness. As the town clock began to chime midnight, signaling the start of Christmas Day, Thomas drew Abigail close. Their lips met in a sweet, tender kiss, full of promise and dreams of the future. The world around them faded away, leaving only the warmth of their embrace and the soft fall of snow. In that moment, surrounded by the magic of Christmas in their little Connecticut town, Abigail and Thomas knew that they had found a love to last a lifetime. As they broke apart, Both slightly breathless, they shared a smile that spoke volumes of the journey they were about to embark upon together. The days and weeks that followed were filled with the joy of new love blossoming amidst the winter landscape. Abigail and Thomas spent every spare moment together, getting to know each other more deeply with each passing day. They went on long walks through the snow-covered parks, their breaths mingling in the cold air as they talked of their hopes and dreams. Thomas began courting Abigail properly, always mindful of propriety but finding small ways to show his affection. He would leave little wooden carvings on her desk at the schoolhouse, a tiny bird, a delicate flower, each one a testament to his skill and the depth of his feelings. Abigail, in turn, knitted him a warm scarf, pouring her love into every stitch. As winter turned to spring, their love only grew stronger. Thomas worked tirelessly on his plans to open his own furniture store, with Abigail by his side offering encouragement and practical advice. She continued teaching, inspired anew by Thomas's support and the joy their relationship brought to her life. When summer arrived, Thomas proposed on a warm evening beneath a canopy of stars. Abigail accepted without hesitation, her heart full to bursting with love and excitement for their future together. They were married in the town church that autumn, surrounded by the warm hues of changing leaves and the love of their community. As the years passed, Thomas did eventually open his furniture store, with Abigail by his side as his wife and partner. His craftsmanship became renowned throughout Connecticut, each piece infused with the same love and care he had put into that first Christmas star. Abigail continued teaching, inspiring generations of Hartford's children with her passion for learning and the gentle strength she had found in herself through love. And every Christmas, they placed Thomas's hand-carved star atop their tree, a reminder of the night their love first blossomed under the twinkling lights of a Connecticut Christmas. It became a symbol not just of that magical night, but of the enduring love and partnership they had built together, a love as strong and true as the star itself.